They were the oldest and most powerful species in the entire galaxy. They had lived for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. Their bodies were covered in beautiful scales that changed colors in ways that no human eye could fully understand. They breathed fire, flew through the skis of their home world, and their leaders were treated like gods by other alien species. When three baby dragons vanished from the nursery world of, the whole galaxy felt the shock. Elder Matriarch was the grandmother of the missing bobbies. She was ancient, powerful, and terrifying. Her scales were the color of pure gold, and her eyes burned like two small suns. She stood before the Galactic Assembly, a council of all the intelligent species in known space, and her voice shook the walls of the great chamber. "I have been stolen," she said. Her voice was deep and full of rage. "Three hatchlings. They are only 10 years old. They cannot survive alone. And the last species to pass near our nursery world was the humans." The chamber went silent. Every alien diplomat turned to look at the human section. Ambassador stood up slowly. She was 62 years old, with silver hair and calm gray eyes. She had spent her whole life working for peace between species, but she had never faced a moment like this one. Matriarch said carefully, "Humanity did not take your. We have no reason to do such a thing. We want peace with your people." "Then explain the evidence," growled. "Human engine signatures were found near the nursery boundaries. Your ships were there." "One cargo ship passed through for fuel," admitted. "The Steadfast Hope, but they did not land on, they did not approach the nursery. They simply refueled and continued on their route." Its massive tail swept across the floor, leaving deep scratches in the ancient stone. "I do not believe you, human. Your species is young and hungry. You spread across the stars like insects. You take what you want without thinking of consequences." Kept her voice steady, even though her heart was pounding. "We will cooperate with any investigation. We will open our records, our ships, our colonies to your inspectors. We have nothing to hide." "You have 1 month," said, her golden eyes narrowed. "Find my, or there will be war." The word hung in the air like poison. War with the would be devastating. Their ships were powerful, their warriors fearless, and they had allies across the galaxy. Humanity had only been part of the Galactic Assembly for 80 years. They were still newcomers, still proving themselves. A war could destroy everything they had built. As the council session ended, turned to her young assistant, Park. He was only 25, fresh out of the diplomatic academy, but he was smart and worked hard. "We need to find those hatchlings," said quietly. "Whatever it takes." "Where do we even start?" asked. "They could be anywhere." "Start with the Steadfast Hope's route. Every system they passed through, every port they visited, someone must have seen something." 12,000 light-years away, on a small frontier planet called New Montana, a man named Danny had no idea that his life was about to change forever. Danny was a mechanic. He ran the only repair shop in a tiny settlement called Dusty Creek. The town had about 400 people, mostly farmers and miners who had come to New Montana looking for a simple life away from the crowded core worlds. Danny was 43 years old. He had rough hands from years of hard work, and he always had grease stains on his clothes. His wife had died 5 years ago, and he had lived alone ever since. He did not have children. He did not have many friends. He just had his work, his small apartment above the shop, and his collection of old books about cowboys and the American frontier. It was a quiet Thursday evening when Danny heard a strange sound. He was working on an old engine, trying to fix a problem with the fuel injection system. The sound came from the back corner of his shop, behind a pile of spare parts. It was a scratching, scraping noise, like something small was trying to dig through metal. Danny put down his tools and grabbed a flashlight. Probably a rock rat, he thought. The little creatures were everywhere on New Montana. They liked warm places, and his shop was full of machinery that gave off heat. He moved the spare parts aside. expecting to find a nest of furry rodents. Instead, he found 3 pairs of glowing eyes staring back at him. Danny froze. The creatures were not rock rats. They were not anything he had ever seen before. Each one was about the size of a house cat. They had long bodies covered in scales that shimmered between deep purple and dark blue. Their snouts were pointed, almost like a lizard's, and they had 4 legs with small, delicate claws. Tiny wings were folded against their backs, and from their nostrils, small wisps of smoke curled up into the air. "What in the world?" Danny whispered. The smallest of the 3 made a sound. It was somewhere between a bird's chirp and a cat's growl. The little creature stumbled forward on wobbly legs and bumped its nose against Danny's boot. Danny knew he should be careful. He had seen enough strange alien animals to know that touching unknown creatures was usually a bad idea. Some were poisonous, some were aggressive, some carried diseases. But the little creature looked up at him with big, shining eyes, and something in Danny's heart melted. He reached down slowly, giving the creature time to run away if it wanted to. It did not run. Instead, it sniffed his fingers, then pressed its warm head into his palm. The scales were smooth and dry, like polished stone. The creature made a soft humming sound, almost like it was purring. "Okay," Danny said to himself. "Okay, I guess this is happening now." He looked at the other 2 creatures. They watched him carefully, but they did not seem afraid. One of them, the largest, had a streak of gold across its snout. The middle one was already exploring the area around Danny's feet, sniffing at everything with intense curiosity. Danny had no idea where they had come from. He had no idea what they were. But they were clearly young, clearly hungry, and clearly alone. He could not just leave them there. "All right, little ones," he said softly, "let's get you something to eat." He went to his small kitchen and found some leftover meat from his dinner. When he brought it back, the creatures fell on it like they had not eaten in days. Maybe they had not. Danny watched them eat, feeling a strange mix of confusion and concern. Whatever these creatures were, they needed help, and Danny had never been able to turn away from something that needed help. That night he made them a bed from old blankets and a heating pad. They curled up together in a pile, their small bodies pressed close for warmth. The smallest one, the one that had first approached him, climbed out of the pile and crawled onto Danny's chest as he tried to sleep on the couch. Its weight was warm and comforting. Its breathing was slow and steady. Danny put his hand on the creature's back and stared at the ceiling. "What am I going to do with you?" he asked quietly. The creature just made that soft humming sound and fell asleep. Danny did not know it yet, but he had just become the caretaker of the 3 most important bobbies in the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first week was complete chaos for Danny. The 3 creatures ate more than he thought possible. They wanted meat, and they wanted it warm. Danny went through his entire supply of frozen protein packs in just 3 days. He had to make emergency trips to the general store, buying every piece of meat Maria Santos had in stock. "Having a party, Danny?" Maria asked with a raised eyebrow. "Something like that," Danny mumbled, not meeting her eyes. The creatures also needed heat, lots of heat. Danny discovered this when he found them huddled behind his plasma cutter, pressing their small bodies against the hot metal. He quickly built them a proper warming bed using an old heating coil and some fire-resistant blankets. They loved it. They would pile on top of each other and sleep for hours, making soft clicking sounds that Danny found strangely relaxing. He gave them names. He had always loved old Western stories, so he named them after famous outlaws. The largest one with the gold streak on her snout became. The middle one, who was always the first to explore anything new, became. And the smallest one, the one who had first touched his hand, became. Danny knew he should report them to someone. New Montana had rules about alien wildlife. These creatures were clearly not from this planet. Someone somewhere was probably looking for them. but every time he thought about making a call, would climb onto his lap and look up at him with those big, trusting eyes. And he would decide to wait just one more day. The creatures grew fast. By the end of the second week, they were the size of medium dogs. Their wings had started to open and stretch. They practiced flapping in the shop, knocking over tools and parts, and figured out how to breathe fire. It started small, just little puffs of flame, no bigger than a candle, but was excited by her new ability, and she kept practicing. Danny lost 2 workbenches, a coffee maker, and a perfectly good jacket before he learned to keep anything flammable far away from her. No, he would say firmly whenever she started to breathe deep. The creature would look at him with something like disappointment, then find something else to do. She was learning. They all were. They followed Danny everywhere. When he worked on engines, they sat nearby and watched, was especially interested in electrical systems. Danny caught her trying to chew on power cables more than once. He had to wrap everything in protective covering to keep her safe. Just wanted to be close to Danny. She would drape herself across his shoulders while he worked, her warm weight a constant presence. At night, she still slept on his chest, even though she was getting heavy. "You're going to crush me eventually," Danny told her one evening. Just made that humming sound and closed her eyes. The townspeople of Dusty Creek started to notice that something strange was happening at Danny's shop. It began when Maria Santos came to pick up her repaired water recycler. She walked into the shop and stopped dead in her tracks, was sitting on a workbench watching Danny work, was wrapped around his shoulders like a scarf, and was playing with a ball of crumpled paper in the corner. "Danny," Maria said slowly, "what in the name of all that is holy are those things?" "They're, rescues," Danny said. He tried to sound casual, but his voice came out nervous. "Found them behind the shop. Figured I'd look after them until I could find them a proper home." Maria stared at the creatures, stared back, making a soft chirping sound. "They look like dragons," Maria said. "Yeah," Danny admitted, "kind of." "Dragons, Danny. You have dragons in your shop." "They're very well behaved," Danny said quickly. "Mostly." Maria was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head and laughed. "You are the strangest man I have ever met, and I grew up on a mining colony where people talk to rocks." News spread through Dusty Creek like wildfire. Within a few days, everyone in town knew about Danny's dragons. People started coming by the shop just to see them. At first, Danny was worried. He thought people might be scared or angry. He thought someone might report him to the authorities. Instead, the townspeople were delighted. Old Pete Morales, who had lived in Dusty Creek longer than anyone, became a regular visitor. He would sit on a crate in the corner and watch the creatures play. "You've got a gift, Danny," Pete said one afternoon. "Animals always did trust you. Remember when you calmed down that wild horse on the ranch, the one that wouldn't let anyone near it?" "That was different," Danny said. "That was just a horse." "Nothing about you has ever been just anything," Pete replied with a knowing smile. The children of Dusty Creek were the most excited. Their parents would bring them by after school, and Danny would let them watch the creatures under careful supervision. Loved the attention. She would show off her golden streak and make dramatic poses, would perform little flame tricks, breathing tiny shapes of fire into the air, tolerated the visits with patient dignity. One little girl, Lucy, became especially attached to the creatures. She was 8 years old, with curly black hair and a gap-toothed smile. She would sit quietly in the corner for hours, just watching them. "Mr. Danny," she asked one day, "where did they come from?" Danny looked at the creatures. They had been with him for 3 weeks now. They were healthy, happy, and growing every day. But he still had no idea what they really were or where they had come from. "I don't know, Lucy," he admitted. "But wherever it was, I think they're glad to be here now." Lucy nodded seriously. "I think they're glad to have you." That night, after Danny closed up the shop, He sat with the creatures in their habitat. He had converted the entire second floor of his building into a space for them, with climbing structures, heat lamps, and a special feeding area. Was already asleep, curled into a ball, was playing with a metal ring she had found somewhere, and was pressed against Danny's side, her scales warm through his shirt. Danny realized something then, something important. He was happy. For the first time since his wife died, he felt like he had a purpose. He had someone to take care of, someone who needed him. 3 someones, actually. He knew it could not last forever. He knew that creatures like this did not just appear out of nowhere. Someone, somewhere, was probably looking for them. But for now, in this quiet moment with his strange little family around him, Danny felt at peace. "Whatever happens," he said softly, stroking scales, "I'm glad you found me." Made that humming sound. In her own way, Danny thought, she was saying that she was glad too. He did not know that far away, across the galaxy, people were searching desperately for his 3 little dragons. He did not know that the fate of entire worlds hung in the balance. All he knew was that he loved these creatures, and he would do whatever it took to keep them safe. Ambassador was running out of time and out of hope. 3 weeks had passed since the hatchlings disappeared. Her team had searched every ship that had passed near. They had checked every port, every cargo hold, every passenger manifest. They had interviewed hundreds of people and reviewed thousands of hours of security footage. They had found nothing. Sat in her office aboard the diplomatic station, staring at star charts on the walls. Her eyes were tired. She had not slept properly in days. The weight of 2 civilizations rested on her shoulders, and she could feel herself sinking under it. "Ambassador," Park appeared in the doorway. Her young assistant looked almost as exhausted as she felt. "I have the latest report from the Steadfast Hope investigation." "And?" "Nothing. The crew is clean. Their records are clean. They stopped for fuel and left. There's no evidence they took the hatchlings or even knew they existed." Rubbed her temples. "Then how do we explain the engine signatures near?" "We can't," admitted. "But the signatures could be from any human vessel. They don't specifically match the Steadfast Hope. It could be a coincidence, or it could be someone trying to frame humanity." "They won't accept that theory," said. "They want answers, not possibilities." Was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "What do we actually know about dragon hatchlings? How do they behave when they're lost?" Looked at him with new interest. "That's a good question. Pull up everything we have on Young." Worked at his data pad for a few minutes, then projected the information on the wall. "Hatchlings are highly social," he read. "They form strong bonds with their caretakers and rarely stray far from them. They need warmth, meat-based food, and companionship to survive. Without proper care, hatchlings typically die within 3 to 4 weeks." His heart sank. If the hatchlings had been abandoned somewhere, they were probably already dead. "There's something else," continued. "Hatchlings have an instinctive ability to teleport short distances when they're scared. It's a survival mechanism. They can jump about 10 meters in any direction." "Teleport," leaned forward. "They can just disappear and reappear somewhere else." "When threatened, yes. The theory is that the hatchlings weren't actually kidnapped. They might have been frightened by something near the nursery, teleported in panic, and accidentally ended up in a passing ship's cargo hold." Considered this. It made sense. A ship passing near, some loud noise or sudden movement that scared the bobbies, and then they were gone. No kidnapping, no crime, just a terrible accident. "If that's true," she said slowly, "then the hatchlings could have ended up anywhere along the Steadfast Hope's route." "There are 17 systems on that route," said. "Most are major trade hubs with heavy monitoring, but a few are frontier worlds, places where unusual animals might not attract much attention." "Start scanning communications from those frontier worlds," ordered. "Look for any mention of strange creatures, unusual pets, exotic animals. Anything that might be our hatchlings. That could take a long time, warned. Then we better work fast. We have 1 week left before's deadline. Far across the galaxy, on the home world of, Matriarch performed the ancient rituals of mourning. Her kind did not cry. They had no tears to shed. Instead, they breathed fire into the sacred pools, heating the water that gave life to their world. It was a way of sharing grief, of turning pain into something useful. 3 hatchlings, her own, the children of her youngest daughter who had died giving birth to them, had raised them herself, feeding them, teaching them, watching them grow. And now they were gone. She stood at the edge of the great pool, her golden scales reflected in the steam rising from the water. Around her, others watched in respectful silence. They knew better than to disturb the matriarch when she was mourning. "Great Mother," said a voice behind her. Turned, her great-nephew stood there, his scales a deep green like forest shadows. He was young for a barely 500 years old, but he was wise and careful. "What is it?" asked. "The human ambassador requests more time for her investigation. She says they are making progress." "Progress," repeated bitterly. "That is what they always say, progress, investigation, cooperation, but they never find anything, they never take responsibility." "Perhaps they truly are innocent," said carefully. His eyes flashed with anger. "Someone took if not the humans, then who? They were the only ones near, they are the only suspects." "I only suggest patience, Great Mother. War with the humans would be costly. Many would die on both sides." "Do you think I don't know that?" His voice rose. "Do you think I want war? I want my back. I want to hold them again, to hear their voices, to watch them grow into the magnificent creatures they should become." Her voice broke. "But if I cannot have them back, then I will have justice. I will have vengeance." Bowed his head. "I understand, Great Mother." "Go to the human space," said. "Watch their investigation. See if they are truly trying to find the hatchlings or if they are just pretending. Report everything to me." "As you command." After left stood alone by the sacred pool. The water bubbled and steamed around her. She breathed fire into it, a long stream of orange and gold that lit up the cavern like a small sun. Her were out there somewhere. She could feel it in her ancient bones. The bond between generations was strong. If they were dead, she would know. She would feel the emptiness in her soul. But she felt nothing, only worry, only fear, only desperate hope. "Where are you, little ones?" she whispered to the steam. "Where have you gone?" On New Montana, Danny sneezed. Looked up at him with concern. They were in the shop together, Danny working on a broken generator while watched from her usual spot on his shoulders. She was getting almost too heavy to carry now, but she refused to sit anywhere else when Danny was working. "Sorry, girl," Danny said, rubbing his nose. "Just felt like someone was talking about me." Made a questioning sound. "Old Earth superstition," Danny explained. "When you sneeze for no reason, it means someone somewhere is thinking about you." Considered this, then put her head back down on Danny's shoulder. She did not care about superstitions. She just cared about being close to her human. In the corner and were playing some kind of game. They would take turns hiding behind equipment, then pouncing on each other. Sometimes would add little bursts of flame to the game, which always made chirp with annoyance. Danny smiled as he watched them. 3 weeks ago he had been alone. Now he had a family. He did not know that his family was about to bring the entire galaxy to his doorstep. He did not know that in just a few more days, everything would change. For now, he was just a mechanic in a small town, caring for 3 strange creatures who had wandered into his life. And that was enough. Park found the video at 3 in the morning. He had been searching through social media posts from Frontier Worlds for days. Thousands of posts about pets, animals, strange. Most were useless. People on Frontier Worlds saw all kinds of unusual creatures, but kept searching, drinking too much coffee and sleeping too little. Then he saw it. A video posted by a woman on Earth named. She had shared it from her granddaughter on New Montana. The caption said, "Look at the funny pets Lucy's neighbor found." Clicked on the video, his heart nearly stopped. Three scaled creatures were playing with a ball in what looked like a mechanic's workshop. They were large, almost the size of big dogs. Their scales shimmered purple and blue in the light. One of them had a gold streak on its snout. Another breathed a tiny flame at the ball. In the background, a man's voice said, "Careful, that's flammable." Stared at the screen. His hands were shaking. He immediately called Ambassador. "I found them," he said. "I found the hatchlings." The diplomatic cruiser Olive Branch broke every speed record getting to New Montana. Ambassador had insisted on coming herself, along with the observer sent by Matriarch. Watched the video 17 times during the journey. Each time, his green scales seemed to shimmer with emotion. "They are alive," he kept saying. "They are alive and healthy." The human in the video appears to be caring for them, observed. They seem comfortable with him. "That is unexpected," admitted. "Hatchlings do not usually bond with other species. Our young are very particular about their caretakers." "What does it mean if they have bonded with this human?" Was quiet for a long moment. "It means he has done something remarkable, something I would not have believed possible if I had not seen it myself." The Olive Branch landed at Dusty Creek's tiny spaceport on a bright Tuesday morning. The whole town came out to watch. They had never seen a diplomatic cruiser before. They had never seen an alien like before either. Led the delegation toward the mechanic's shop. Her heart was pounding. Everything depended on the next few minutes. If the hatchlings were healthy, if they could be returned safely, then war could be avoided. But if anything had happened to them, if they were hurt or unhappy, then nothing could stop what was coming. They found Danny in his shop, just like in the video. He was working on some piece of machinery, his hands covered in grease. He looked up when the group entered and his eyes went wide. In full diplomatic robes was not something you saw every day on New Montana. "Can I help you folks?" Danny asked carefully. Before could answer, a sound came from the back of the shop. A chirping, crooning sound that made freeze where he stood. Three creatures came bounding around the corner. They were bigger than in the video, almost the size of small ponies now. Their scales gleamed in the afternoon light. When they saw the group of strangers, they stopped and stared. Made a sound that had never heard from before. It was somewhere between a gasp and a cry of joy. "The hatchlings," he whispered, "they truly live." The creatures looked at. They looked at Danny. Something passed between them, some kind of silent communication that humans could not understand. Then the smallest one, the one with no special markings, walked over and pressed herself against Danny's leg. The other two followed. They arranged themselves around the human mechanic like guards protecting their king. Stared at this display. His green scales had gone pale with shock. "They have bonded with him," he said quietly, "fully and completely. They have chosen him as their caretaker." Danny put his hand on the smallest creature's head. "I don't know what's going on here," he said, "but these three aren't going anywhere they don't want to go." Stepped forward. She had prepared for many scenarios on the journey here: theft, smuggling, black market trade. She had not prepared for this. "Mister," she said, trying to keep her voice calm, "do you have any idea what these creatures are?" Danny shrugged. "They showed up in my shop about a month ago, scared, hungry, alone. I've been taking care of them ever since." He looked at the creatures with obvious affection. "They're good kids, a little trouble sometimes, but good." "Mister, these are hatchlings. They are the of Matriarch, the leader of one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They have been missing for weeks. Their grandmother has threatened war against humanity if they are not found." Danny blinked. He looked down at the creatures, then back at the ambassador. "War. The entire galaxy has been searching for them. We thought they had been kidnapped. We thought they might be dead." Danny was quiet for a long moment, then he shook his head slowly. "They weren't kidnapped. They were lost, scared. They needed help." He stroked the golden-streaked head of the largest creature. "I just did what anyone would do." Stepped forward. The hatchlings tensed, smoke rising from their nostrils. Danny's hand moved protectively to the smallest one's back. "Peace," said, raising his clawed hands. "I mean no harm." He looked at Danny with ancient eyes full of wonder. "You have cared for them, fed them, sheltered them, given them names." And Danny said, "After old Earth outlaws." "Outlaws?" "Criminals, famous ones. They robbed banks and trains. It's from old stories." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You named the greatest matriarch after human criminals." "I didn't know who they were," Danny protested. "No, you did not. You knew nothing about them except that they needed help, and you helped them anyway." Bowed deeply, a formal gesture of respect that made gasp. "You have done what many of my own kind could not. You have earned the true bond of royal hatchlings through kindness alone. No magic, no ancient ritual, just care." Danny looked uncomfortable with the praise. "I just did what was right." "And that," said softly, "is exactly why it matters." His communication device buzzed. She checked it and felt relief wash through her body like warm water. "Matriarch is coming here herself," she announced. "She wants to see the hatchlings with her own eyes." Danny's face went pale. "The grandmother is coming, the powerful leader you mentioned." "Yes. Here to my shop." "She is already on her way. Her ship will arrive within the day." Danny looked down at the creatures clustered around him, made that soft humming sound and pressed closer to his leg, nuzzled his hand, sat down at his feet and looked up at him with trusting eyes. "Well," Danny said slowly, "I guess I better clean up then." He did not know what was coming. He did not know how his life was about to change. But as he stood there, surrounded by his 3 unlikely children, he made a silent promise. Whatever happened, he would not abandon them. He would stand by them no matter what. That was what family did. The battlecruiser Eternal Flame was the largest thing Danny had ever seen in his life. It hung in orbit above New Montana like a small moon. Its hull was covered in actual scales, each one the size of a house. The scales shimmered with colors that hurt Danny's eyes to look at. The ship was built to look like a giant dragon, with a head at the front and a tail at the back. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Danny stood in the shuttle bay of the diplomatic station, waiting. The 3 hatchlings were pressed close around him. Stood on his right, her gold streak bright under the lights. Was on his left, her tail swishing nervously. And was directly in front of him, as if she was trying to protect him from whatever was coming. Danny was wearing his cleanest clothes. They still had grease stains. Ambassador had offered him a formal suit, but he had said no. If the Dragon Queen was going to judge him, she could judge him as he really was. He was a mechanic from a small town. Nothing more, nothing less. The shuttle bay doors opened. Matriarch was enormous. She was bigger than any creature Danny had ever seen. Her body was covered in golden scales that seemed to glow with inner fire. Her eyes burned like 2 small suns. When she moved, the floor shook under her weight. Behind her came a group of all watching Danny with expressions he could not read. Some looked curious. Some looked hostile. Some looked like they could not believe what they were seeing. The hatchlings began to chirp and click excitedly. Their tails wagged, a gesture Danny had never seen them make before. They recognized their grandmother. But they did not leave Danny's side. Stopped in front of the human mechanic. She was so big that Danny had to crane his neck back to look at her face. He felt like an ant standing before a mountain. "You are the one," said. Her voice was deep and powerful, like the rumble of a volcano. "The one who found the one who cared for them when they were lost and alone." Danny swallowed hard. His throat was very dry. "Yes, ma'am." They could have died, lost on an alien world, separated from their kind, with no one to care for them. Hatchlings rarely survive more than a few weeks without proper attention. Lowered her massive head until her enormous eye was level with Danny's face. Why did you help them? It was a simple question, but Danny could tell that his answer mattered more than anything he had ever said before. He thought about his life, his empty apartment, his quiet evenings alone, the ache he had carried since his wife passed away. He thought about the night he had found the hatchlings, scared and hungry behind his spare parts. He thought about sleeping on his chest, her warm weight like a blessing. Because they needed someone, Danny said, and I was there. Studied him for a long moment. Her golden eyes searched his face, as if she was looking for something hidden underneath. Then she turned to the hatchlings. "Little ones," she said, her voice suddenly soft and gentle. "My precious, I have missed you so much. I have been so worried." She reached out one massive claw toward them. "Do you wish to come home?" The hatchlings looked at each other. Something passed between them, some communication that humans and even adults could not fully understand. Then stepped forward and pressed herself firmly against Danny's leg, moved to his other side, sat down directly in front of him, blocking the path between Danny and. Their message was clear. They were not leaving their human. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was not a cruel sound. It was surprised and somehow pleased. "I see," she said. "The bond is complete. They have truly chosen you." "I'm sorry," Danny said quickly. "I didn't mean to take them from you. I didn't know who they were. I just wanted to help." "Do not apologize, human." His voice was warm now. "You have done nothing wrong. In fact, you have done something wonderful, something that has not happened in 10,000 years. "What do you mean?" "My people believe that we are the only ones worthy of raising young. We believe that our children can only bond with their own kind, but you have proven us wrong." Gestured toward the hatchlings. "These three have given you their hearts. They trust you completely. They love you." Danny felt tears forming in his eyes. He blinked them away quickly. "I love them too." "I know," straightened to her full height. She looked at the gathered crowd of inhumans alike. "Listen well, all of you. This human has done what we believed impossible. He has earned the loyalty of young through kindness alone. No magic, no ritual, no ancient bond. Simply care." She turned back to Danny. "You have a choice, mechanic. You may return to your world, to your shop, to your quiet life. Mine will remain with you. We will provide whatever resources you need for their care. You will be considered a friend to the, with all the honor that brings." Danny's heart lifted with hope, and the other choice. "You may come with us, too, to the home world of my people." Eyes gleamed. "There is much you could teach us about caring for the young, and much, I suspect, that you could learn from us. The bond works both ways, human. I have claimed you. That makes you family." Family. The word hit Danny like a physical blow. He had not had family in a very long time. Since his wife died, he had been alone in the universe. Just him and his shop and his books about cowboys. But now, standing here with 3 dragon children pressed against him, with a dragon queen offering him a home, he realized that he was not alone anymore. He looked down at his children in every way that mattered. They looked back at him with hope and love in their eyes. "I've got a shop to close up," Danny said, "and some goodbyes to say, but after that," he met's ancient gaze, I'd like to meet the rest of the family." Bowed her great golden head. It was a gesture of respect that made everyone in the room gasp with shock. "Then welcome, Danny. Welcome to our hearts." 3 years later, Danny sat on the crystalline shore of sacred pools. The water was warm from the heat below the ground. The air smelled of sulfur and something that reminded him of flowers. Lay beside him, her head resting on his lap. She was huge now, almost as big as a small shuttle, but she still liked to be close to him, still made that soft humming sound when he scratched behind her scales. And were out flying with their cousins, their scales catching the light of twin suns. Danny could see them in the distance, playing games in the sky that he could not understand. He had become something of a legend among the human who had bonded with royal hatchlings, the mechanic who had prevented a war without even knowing he was doing it. Children came from all over to meet him, to hear his stories, to learn how to be kind. The Galactic Assembly had created new rules because of what happened, new ways to help lost children of any species. Ambassador had been promoted. They had opened their world to human visitors for the first time in history. And Danny had found something he thought was lost forever, a place where he belonged, a family that loved him. Made her humming sound, content and happy. "Yeah," Danny said softly, stroking her scales. "I know exactly what you mean." Above them, the twin suns began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple, and came swooping down, landing nearby with happy chirps. They had brought him a gift, a beautiful stone from the high mountains. Danny laughed and thanked them. He added the stone to his collection. His children brought him gifts almost every day now. He thought about his old life sometimes. His empty apartment, his lonely evenings, his heart full of grief. It felt like a dream now, like something that had happened to someone else. This was his life now. This was his home. These were his children. And he would not trade it for anything in the universe. The end.